Hi Barb, I hope your day is going well. This second assignment builds on the first assignment where I reflected on myself as a leader and on the organization where I work. Over the next 10 minutes, I'll demonstrate my understanding of the key concepts from this course, how I plan to integrate them, and the commitments and actions I will take to put these learnings into practice. Let's get started. How this course shaped my learning journey. This course has broadened my perspective on leadership, expanding my view beyond structure and people, which were my only two considerations before. Now I understand political and symbolic dynamics too, which give me the knowledge to understand issues I couldn't previously explain. It also deepened my understanding of workplace design and culture, helping me see that organizational success is shaped by countless interconnected decisions, requiring both a microscopic examination of individual issues and a broader view of the organization as a whole. And lastly, it provided practical framework for diagnosing organizational challenges, giving me the language to understand and address the increasingly complex workplace that we operate in, while considering multiple perspectives and dimensions. Next, I'll share my understanding of the four frames and share how I will put the four frames into practice through leadership and decision-making. Structure. Structure is about aligning goals, roles, processes, and systems to create clarity and accountability. One key takeaway for me was recognizing that organizational structure is not a one-size-fits-all. It must be intentionally designed to fit the organization's goals, strategy, environment, and people, while supporting effective coordination and communication. Structure is about how we allocate work and how we coordinate diverse efforts after parceling out responsibilities. Problems arise when the structure does not fit the situation. How I will apply what I know about structure. I'll balance vertical and lateral coordination to support effective communication, alignment, and organizational effectiveness. Design well-defined roles with clear decision-making authority, empowering employees while supporting accountability. Build efficient systems and processes that support performance, collaboration, and employee well-being. And continually evaluate and adapt structures to respond to the changing needs and circumstances. Human resources is about creating conditions that support meaningful relationships, personal growth, and the fulfillment of human needs. Putting theory into action. When leading a team, I'll account for human needs such as autonomy, growth, and meaning, not just efficiency. I'll navigate the tension between flexibility and control, and between internal and external priorities, just as we learned through the competing values framework. I'll intentionally create opportunities for conversations that build trust, psychological safety, collaboration, and positive team culture. And I want to think about how do we support and develop our people while building the next generation of leaders. The political frame is about navigating competing interests, limited resources, and power dynamics. The political frame reminded me that conflict is not always a problem to solve, but often the result of legitimate competing interests that must be understood and balanced. Even well-designed organizations experience conflict between resources, authority, and priorities. How I will apply my learnings in a practical way. I'll intentionally build positive relationships across groups to create the foundation for respectful negotiation. Use influence, collaboration, and relationship building to navigate competing priorities, build alignment, and move initiatives forward. When making changes, I'll identify who will be affected, understand their concerns, and build support before implementation. And manage conflict constructively instead of avoiding difficult conversations. As leaders, our role is not to avoid that discomfort of difficult conversations, but to create environments where those conversations can take place respectfully and productively. The symbolic frame is about creating shared meaning by connecting people to a common purpose, values, and culture. It's what gives our work meaning and identity. what this will look like in practice. I'll connect organizational goals with individual values and aspirations to create meaningful and fulfilling work. I'll create a culture where purpose, values, and identity are brought to life through everyday rituals and behaviors, and we'll celebrate successes and recognize achievements that support our purpose and values. What it feels like to apply these frames as a leader of tomorrow. One word came to mind: empowered. Empowered to navigate complexity through multiple perspectives, empowered to make more balanced and intentional decisions, empowered to lead others with confidence and purpose, and empowered to collaborate on ideas and co-create meaningful solutions. This diagram shows how the dimensions relate to each other as an integrated whole. The top box shows how structures and human resources impact each other. Structures create conditions for people to perform effectively, but without the human resource frame, structures can become rigid and overlook people's needs. To the right, I capture how human resources and the political frame are interconnected. I explain how relationships provide the foundation for influence, and how understanding people's needs helps leaders navigate competing interests. On the bottom, I speak to how the political and symbolic frame are connected. Shared values and purpose unite individuals and groups with different interests, which is directly related to influence. And lastly, bringing the four frames full circle, I touch on how without the symbolic frame, structures can feel like they lack meaning. How the four frames work together as an integrated leadership approach. Bowman and Deal made it clear that no single frame provides a complete picture of organizational life. Effective leadership comes from integrating all four frames, enabling leaders to better understand organizations, navigate complexity, and foster both organizational effectiveness and a strong culture. In Assignment 1, I identified 3 redesign opportunities at the organization I work with. Number 1, limited cross-team collaboration. Number 2, motivational issues with employees. And number 3, an us versus them mentality. Now I'd like to share 2 commitments I'm making as a leader going forward. Commitment number 1, use the 4 frames to guide leadership practice and organizational decision-making. I see this commitment as needing 3 intentional actions. On the left, I'm committed to thoughtfully and strategically applying all 4 frames when assessing challenges, making decisions, and leading change. In the middle, I will intentionally create opportunities to strengthen collaboration and psychological safety in our organization. We'll do this by bringing groups together on initiatives and setting up cross-silo discussions to help employees see things in a different way. And lastly, I'll deliberately connect the organization's goals with people's needs and values, creating meaningful engagement amongst the employees. Commitment number 2, integrate human-centered design thinking into daily leadership practice. I'm committed to involving those most impacted by a challenge in understanding the issue, generating ideas, and co-creating solutions. This commitment is supported by 3 intentional actions that work together to create meaningful impact. Listen to understand. Rather than assuming what people need, I will engage the people closest to the work to better understand the challenge. I will approach these conversations with empathy and seek to understand their experiences and perspectives. Co-creating solutions. Rather than having all the answers or personally fixing the problem, I'll facilitate, engage, and empower others. Using the how might we approach will help shift from providing a solution to becoming more human-centric, increasing engagement and bringing employees into the solution. And lastly, we'll reflect and improve. We will incorporate continuous feedback and reflection loops to measure the effectiveness of the solution and adapt them in response to the needs of those impacted. Seeing real results from applying the 4 frames is a team effort. It isn't something I can achieve alone. It comes through engaging, listening to, and leading others towards these outcomes. Together, these outcomes reinforce one another and reflect the kind of leader I want to be. The anticipated outcomes of this approach are greater understanding of the complexities of organizational life, more effective and balanced decision-making, stronger cross-team collaboration, and increased employee engagement and performance. To conclude, here are a few key takeaways from my learning journey. Intentional leadership is the key to translating theory into practice. Organizational success is a team effort. It requires engaging, listening to, and leading others. The most effective solutions emerge when diverse perspectives are heard and people are involved in shaping the way forward. It's important to find a leadership approach that aligns with your values and leadership strengths, and by intentionally applying all 4 frames, I can help foster a culture that supports collaboration, engagement, performance, and long-term organizational success. These are the references I used for this assignment. Thanks for watching, Barb. I'm genuinely excited to start applying these valuable insights to my day-to-day leadership practice. And I have to say that completing the last 2 assignments was a particularly meaningful learning experience. And I appreciated the opportunity they provided to reflect on my growth and future leadership practice. We'll see you next week.